I've had this ROK Espresso maker for a few years now, and recently lever machines are becoming a lot more popular. So, is the ROK still a competitor? Here is my 2-year review. Before I get into it, I just released an all-in-one basics espresso and latte art course on Skillshare. It's 24 minutes of video breakdowns on how to dial in espresso shots and pour great latte art. If you want to check it out, there's a link in the description, and anyone who signs up through that link will give me a small amount of money that I will probably use to buy more coffee equipment for reviews. So let's get into what the ROK can do. Well, it absolutely can make amazing espresso. Just look at the crema on this baby. But how does it compare to a semi-automatic espresso machine? What features does it have, and which ones do you really need on an entry-level espresso maker? Well, for starters, it can't steam milk. But if you're an espresso lover, that's not really much of a problem, and there are a lot more separate options now for milk-based drinks, like using a nano foamer or a stovetop milk steamer. So let's get into the basics of how it works. You put in your hot water in the top, you lock in the portafilter, raise the arms up, and push them down to pull an espresso shot. It's a super simple mechanism, but it's finely tuned and it really does get the job done. Even slightly more expensive beginner espresso machines will not get as good an espresso as something like the ROK, because they put a lot of money into parts that aren't directly related to how good an espresso you get out of it, like electronics and plumbing and all of that stuff. This one, it's very simple. Everything goes into the mechanism of pulling and getting that pressure for a really nice espresso. In that sense, the ROK is super minimalistic. You can really feel the pressure that you're putting through the coffee, and that's what's going to create that really rich texture from the crema. While crema doesn't really add much to the taste of a coffee, and some people actually scoop it off to remove some of that bitterness, it really does add a lot to the texture. To get this, make sure you're using fresh coffee beans. I usually use beans that are between 4 days and 4 weeks off the roast date. So one of the main benefits of using a lever machine like this is flow control. The beauty of this is that if you want to get a semi-automatic machine that has some kind of flow control, you're looking at thousands of dollars even for the most basic one. But with this, you can just do it by controlling how hard you press. If you have a coffee bean that would benefit from a little bit more extraction, you can just slow down how hard you're pressing and you'll get a completely different flavor in the end. For me, this has actually been one of the reasons why I use the ROK Espresso maker, even though I have a nice semi-automatic machine over here. I want to be able to extract more from certain types of coffee, and I can't really do that on my Sylvia. Often, if I just want to make an espresso, the kind of shots I'll get out of the ROK are much better than the ones I'd get out of my Sylvia, even with the PID attachment I have. Recently, I've also really enjoyed using the ROK to pull staccato shots, which requires a groove sifter so you can pull a much more interesting tasting shot. It takes a little bit of extra prep, but the shots I've been getting out of this have been insanely good. I'm actually planning on making a video about the staccato method soon, so you should subscribe if you want to see that when it comes out. A big caveat to this though is that the ROK doesn't come with any kind of pressure gauge by default. I have seen some people making custom mods so they can see how much pressure they're getting out, but I think this is more for very technical people, and for average home users like myself, this isn't really an option. I would love to see an add-on for the ROK so I can get this kind of pressure information, and that's something that other lever machines like the Flare have as an advantage over this one. I have to say, the thing that I like the least about the ROK is the spoon/tamper. It's a little clunky to use, and it's more difficult to get the coffee straight, which is really the whole point of tamping, and it doesn't really seem to have much benefit to being in spoon form. I never use a spoon to dose my coffee, and as any espresso lover will tell you, you're supposed to grind the coffee fresh, so I'm not picking some coffee out of a can with a spoon. I'm usually dosing directly into my portafilter. No spoon necessary. Maybe it's useful for people who buy pre-ground coffee, but you really shouldn't be using pre-ground coffee anyway, and if you want to, just buy a spoon. I would love to see a little tamper that's the right size for the ROK on a future version of this machine. Another small issue that I found a workaround for is that it can be a bit of a pain to clean up sometimes. When I first got the machine, I would pull out the portafilter and it would be a little bit wet. I'd have to pour it into a different cup, and then I might make a mess on the side table and it would just become a little bit of a pain to clean up. What I've done since then is I put a different cup underneath the portafilter after I've pulled my shot, and I just pull the arms up and push them down a few times. This pulls all of the water out of there, and you end up with a really nice dry puck that you can knock out into your knock box very easily. To change directions completely, one of the best things about the ROK bar none is that I haven't had any mechanical issues whatsoever in the 2 years that I've had this. On the other hand, my Rancilio Silvia, which I guess I could do a 4-year review of, has had numerous issues. I've had to replace the steam wand, the gasket, and I've had to open it up multiple times to fix little problems inside. Oh, and the chrome plating has been peeling off the boiler for months, and I don't have enough money to fix it or replace it or get a new machine. Sad chowie. So honestly, not having to do anything much in the way of maintenance has been a godsend here in Japan, where there aren't really that much in the way of espresso repair people or access to affordable parts. So really, other than the funky spoon and the lack of a pressure gauge, I've really loved using this machine. For the price, you really can't beat it, and I've brought it with me to friends' houses and events and other places with a hand grinder and pulled some really amazing espresso shots without having to lug my 20-kilo espresso machine anywhere. So I hope this video was really helpful for you. If you're interested in any of the equipment mentioned in this video, take a look in the description, there'll be links to everything. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one. If you wanted to make milk-based drinks, there are a lot more options now with things like the nanofoamer or a... You just slow down how hard you're pressing and you'll get a much more extracted coffee. It takes a little bit of extra prep, but the shots I've been getting out of this... It's a little clunky to use, and it's much harder to get straight than blah.